welcome to the Weekenders. This is the show where we talk football, and we're just a couple weeks away from real football games to talk about. We'll be getting back soon to talking about the biggest games, but today and for the next show, we're going to preview uh, pretty much the rest of the NFL and the NFC part of the NFL. It's just me and Lexi today. No Bobby. Lexi, how you feeling?
I'm good. Ready to talk some NFC,
Yeah, some NFC North and NFC South previews. Let's jump right into this because I think these are two divisions where I don't think it out of the entire NFC, like you expect to see the best football out of these 8 teams we're going to talk about. But I think within the division, it'll be interesting to see like who comes out where. And so we're going to start up north, and the first team that we're going to talk about is the Green Bay Packers, who, for the first time in a long time, you were not talking about Aaron Rodgers being the quarterback of this team. This is officially the post Aaron Rodgers era, aka the Jordan Love era, which some people have mixed feelings about. And we've only seen a little bit from him, but this is a guy that is, I think, in his fourth year now. So the Packers feel like, yeah, this is a guy we feel confident in, putting out there at quarterback. And so that's really, everyone kind of knows that's the biggest story for the Packers. What will they look like under the Jordan Love era? They still have a lot of good players, especially that offensive line. Excuse me, the defense. Running game should be good. We know they don't really have any receivers, but we'll see kind of like what that looks like this year. So we know last year they went 8-9 with Aaron Rodgers. The writing was sort of on the wall with how there was like seemed to be drama all the time, and they were not playing up to their standard. Vegas line for them for their win loss is 7.5, which is tied for the lowest in the division. So I think we're both on the same page. Like this feels like an under to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even just like the stigma of Aaron Rodgers leaving. They don't have any other options. So, yeah, they have to believe in Jordan Love because there's nobody else right now that could even remotely get close to stepping in those shoes. So, I'm ready for Packers to kind of be humbled and stay at the bottom of the conference for a while. They've had a long reign of being the top dogs, but it's going to be a rough go for them this year. They don't have any weapons really, and they never really did. But you had, Hall of Fame quarterback Aaron Rodgers leading that team. And, without him and then plucking the little bit of offense they did have to come with them to New York Jets, it's going to be a rough year for the Packers. So I don't see it going well. It's definitely going to be the under.
Yeah, it kind of like the Aaron Rodgers leaving the Packers and Tom Brady leaving the Patriots felt very similar because it almost felt like, all right, um, once Julian Edelman left New England, like there was like no weapons like for Brady to throw to. Like Brady would have like he could rely on Edelman, he could rely on Gronk, and it didn't matter what the rest of it was. On the Packers, he was able to rely on Devontae Adams. He was able to make some of those other receivers look good. But once Devontae Adams went to Las Vegas, it's like, all right, what else do we have? Like, I can't there's only so much I can do. And so now, Jordan Love, who again, he's been in the NFL for 3 or 4 years now, but you have never really, unless you're like a diehard Packers fan, like I haven't really seen any like vote of confidence for this guy. We know his story, his background comes from Nevada. Not really like an impressive, college football career. Just kind of a guy that the Packers, drafted and said, hey, like this could be a guy we see some potential in. But quite honestly, like if in this situation for a guy that you're sort of like, is he gonna work? Like you haven't really put much around him to help his career get off to a good start. And so for me, like I hate to put this out there because for the sake of so many fans of the other NFC North teams, like you don't want the Packers to get another generational quarterback, but I don't know how many games this team's going to win with that
Yeah.
situation. I mean, offensively, I just don't see it. I don't see how you score more points than the other team. You have an offensive coach, so it's not like you have a Bill Belichick or a Mike Tomlin or somebody that's so good at coaching defense that it equals out. Like you don't have that. So to me, like you know, this could be a situation where the Packers, you know, their path to winning, even 5 or 6 games is tough, and they end up, with another generational quarterback in the draft. Like, I just 7.5 to me is a crazy line. I think it's just they're giving the Packers credit, maybe giving let Matt LaFleur more credit than he deserves. This is I don't even have to look at the schedule like this they're going way under to me.
Yeah, I agree. He'll have his work cut out for him if he finishes decent in the season. So
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that's the other thing too. Like, let's say they do finish with like a 6 or 7 win record, like, and you're out of the Drake May and Caleb Williams range, and you're talking about maybe like, you know, you're debating like, all right, did Jordan Love show us enough to give him another chance, or do we have to think about taking a quarterback in the middle of the draft? Like, that's not really where you want to be either. Like, you want to, be able to get a top talent. So it's going to be, yeah, things can be very complicated for Green Bay next year. All right, on to the Bears. The Bears, oh, I can't. I'm so like, I was so ready to talk about the Bears. Jeez Louise. Okay. The Bears, their line is also 7.5. You and I again agree that that the under will be there. Now I will say this before I jump into my rant, and I'll actually let you speak on the Bears first, but I have a rant about the Bears. I will say this that I think for me the under will more than likely be a slight under, like a 6 or 7 win season for them. I'll stop there and let you give your reasonings about the under for the Bears. But I'm not, Bears fans don't come at me. I'm not saying you're going to be 3 wins again. But to me, like I would be, I would expect a 6 or 7 win season from this team.
yeah, I'll come right out and say it. Having to deal with Bears fans all my life, um, yes, you're gonna double your wins from last year, but it's still not gonna be enough to make the playoffs. They're kind of in this like la la land that they got DJ Moore and they all of a sudden thought they were gonna win like 10 games. It's like what? I mean, no discredit to DJ Moore, he's a great receiver, but let's be real. Fields was running for his life last year, and I don't think he can be a sustainable quarterback constantly running like that. So they did get him a little bit of protection, but it's just not going to be enough to all of a sudden turn around and win, 10 games going to the playoffs. Like there was a lot of things that needed to be filled, but you know, doubling your wins from last year is good, but it's still not going to be enough for that over. I'm saying 6, maybe 7 wins. Maybe they pull off some crazy one that they shouldn't and win 8, but I don't see it at all being higher than that. But I'm definitely going the under on this because I think they're still missing pieces that they're going to have to be waiting on at least another year. They're in a rebuild, whether they want to admit it or not. They really are, and I think the denial of that might only hurt them in the long run.
As a person who has watched every game of DJ Moore's NFL career, I'm telling you right now, DJ Moore is not going to magically make that team go from 3 wins to 8 or 9 or anything.
That's what I'm saying.
He's not turning Justin Fields into an MVP candidate, for God's sakes. I'm cringing at these takes. Like DJ
Dude,
Moore,
Chicago fans all around are just the worst and most delusional.
It's like Chicago fans and even like some of the national media, like, oh, DJ Moore is gonna no, like DJ Moore is a very good receiver. No one ever talked about him when he played for the Panthers. He was not ever considered a top 10 receiver on the Panthers. I'm not even sure people considered him a top 15 receiver. So there's no way that, again, like, is he going to help? Yeah, of course. Like the Bears have historically not had a great receivers, maybe one or two, but like, yeah, of course he's going to be great, as a number one for them. But you did not add a receiver that is going to significantly increase the win total. And we've seen, like, you can look, the stats are out there, like, um, receivers only affect wins, like in terms, like, if you look at all the positions in the NFL, like, wide receivers don't affect winning, you know, uh, significantly. Even the great ones, like, you win maybe one or two games with Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson type receiver, but DJ Moore is not one of them. Like, not even close. So I think your point is very well made about the offensive line still needing to get fixed. Their defense, the Bears have always been able to put together good defenses, but I'm not really sure, um, about that side of the ball for them. I think they still need a few more pieces. It's still going to take some time. Everything you said is true, and even like, if you want to like look at the schedule, I think they're. I'm looking at the schedule for the Bears, and there are a lot of teams that are better than them, just straight up, and
Mm-hmm.
the rest of it is like 50-50 games. I only see two games where I'll say three games where I absolutely am sure that the Bears are better than who they're going to play. But the rest of it is 50-50. We don't know if they're better than the other team, and then teams that are definitely better than them. So to me, exactly like what we've been saying, that might get you 6, 7, 8 wins, but the Bears, to me, are not a playoff team. And again, think a slight under for them is more realistic than anything else.
Well, and not even that, their run game. I mean, they lost
That
David
too.
Montgomery and he came to the Lions. I mean, they have Khalil Herbert, but their depth isn't even there. It's like you're going to be relying on your quarterback to run the ball again. And I just think it's not going to be a good thing for them. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Vikings 8.5 is the Vegas line. That's coming off a 13-4 season, which ended horribly with that bad loss in the playoffs to the Giants.
Most
Um,
fraudulent 13-4 team ever to exist in the
it was
league.
bad, and a lot of people pointed to the like crazy amount of one score games that they won, which one year
They
might
had
go
it was
your
like
way, but
historically the most.
yeah,
Historically the most.
one score. It's like
The
things have,
differential.
yeah, like things happen to them that don't normally happen in the NFL season. They got lucky, won 13 games. Even though I like last year, I was like, that team's going to win the division, and I said that off the strength of that offense with a offensive coach. I felt like Mike Zimmer had kind of overstayed his welcome a little bit and was holding them back. I feel like with an offensive coach, the Vikings were going to be better, and they were. But this year, I think they take a step back. But we both took the over
Mm.
on 8.5. I feel like this is probably a 9 or 10 win team, but you're not going to see like the magic of last year in terms of like the regular season.
Yeah, I mean those close wins. I'm not gonna say it was all luck, but at some point you just gotta say that you're not gonna always get that short edge every time. It's not gonna happen. So they did get lucky in some games last year, but they don't take too much of a step back. I still think they make the playoffs. I still think they
Yeah,
probably win double digits. I'd probably say 10. Maybe
yeah,
they can even pull off 11, but um, it's not going to be the same situation. It's maddening thinking how they won 13 games and then just fell flat like that. But it's because they really kind of were just this pumped up team that was full of hot air, in my opinion. Like you had Justin Jefferson and whatnot, but there's just some pieces, and they lost Dalvin Cook, so we'll see how that goes. Um, it's
Dalvin
going to
Cook
be
and
interesting.
Adam Thielen.
Yeah, Adam Thielen
Yeah,
too. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's going to be a different looking team this year, so we'll see. I
yeah.
still say the over, but that's because 7.5 is pretty good. I mean, 8.5 is pretty a low
It's low for them.
line there.
It's low for them.
I'll probably throw money on that to be honest, because I
Yeah,
definitely see over 8.5.
yeah. That's low for them. I think over is probably one of the best bets of all the win totals. And I'll say this: I think what'll be interesting with the Vikings this year is how they respond to the emotional letdown of last year. Because again, 13 wins is a lot for you to go into the playoffs and like lay an egg. And so you're trying to climb the mountain for another year. Like I wonder like how much like strength they have to carry them through the season after what happened last year. Now, what happened last year could motivate some teams, but it could also be like an emotional anchor that just like holds you down from reaching your full potential. I'm if I'm that's my biggest thing for when I watch the Vikings this year is like how do they respond to last year? Have they moved on? Are they focused? Are they even more driven to prove people wrong? Or are they kind of still hanging on to that loss? Like that'll be a big thing for me, like watching them this year.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna close out the NFC North with Lexi's Detroit Lions, who are the kings of the Vegas wins totals in the NFC North at 9.5. Um, at their being their line, they went 9-8 last year, um, and they are looking to build off of that season. Um, and we know what they've added in terms of weapons in the draft and everything like that. Um, and again, you and I agree. This is going to be the over for Detroit. Yeah, like tell Lexi, tell us why, like, or makes you so excited about the Lions. Um, yeah,
Being a diehard fan my entire life, I can say that I've never chugged the Kool-Aid harder. But this team in that second half of last season was greater than anything I've ever witnessed in my lifetime. And it's not just the product that happened on the field, it's the culture off of it. And you can relate that straight to Dan Campbell, and then Brad Holmes making the moves that he did in the draft. I think that this team is only reloaded. Like, I know we lost Jamal Williams, I know we lost Swift, but adding Montgomery, Jameer Gibbs is showing out to be, he's going to be an incredible weapon. This team is only reloaded, including our defense. I think we got some steals in the draft, Jack Campbell and Brian Branch, but this team is hungry, and it's the hungriest, I think, one of the hungriest in the league. And it's always been the thing that Detroit is cursed. You don't win shit in Detroit, no one wants to play here. But you can just see things shifting for this franchise, and I'm on dangerous waters with how much I believe. It's a scary thing to have so much faith in the Lions that have let me down all my life, but it's different. Yeah, it's different now. Dan Campbell is here to bring a championship to this city, and I really believe that he's going to do it. Might not be this year, but he's promising. And this team has just shown, I think, more love and fight than the city's ever seen, and it's exciting times.
yeah. I think the Lions are really in a really good position this year. I think we've already talked about it. The Packers are going to be down. The Bears are still rebuilding. The Vikings might have a down year a little bit, and honestly, like the Lions sort of are opposite of the Vikings, to where the Vikings have to overcome a letdown from last year. The Lions like you said, had a great ending of last year, and now you just have to build on that. Now you have to continue to, and now you're even more hungry because of what you did last year, and you have the opportunity to do better. I've always liked Jared Goff a little more than most. I think the schedule plays out really nicely, especially in the beginning of the year. Like I love your schedule before the bye week. Um, I think the Kansas City game is crazy that they gave you guys that, but I to me like if I'm the Lions, it's like all right, we have a great opportunity to show people like who we are. Like if this game is close,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like all right, cool. People are going to take you seriously, and then the rest of the schedule before the bye week is like amazing. I mean, the toughest game you're going to have before that bye is going to be in Baltimore, but you've got a lot of
Yeah.
beatable teams at home. Um, Green Bay and Tampa on the road shouldn't be that bad. Again, you go to Baltimore and then you get Vegas right before the bye. Like that's if you can, maybe only go down 2 or 3 games in that first, little bit, then you don't really have that bad of a schedule in the second half, but that'll be a great start. And I think the situation we talk about the division, the roster, the schedule, everything um, is in favor of the Lions being a playoff team this year. Got to get them done.
Yes, we do. And I don't even care if anyone says, "Oh, the conference is down." Good, because we are eating you all up. So let's go.
Yeah, like I can care less that the conference is down. Like that's
Me
better.
neither.
Like I'm happy the conference is down. Like I'm like it's like in basketball. Like the NFC's down in football and the East is down in basketball. I'm like that's great. Let's make the playoffs. Like
Right.
I'm not gonna cry about that. Trust me. Um, okay. All right. So let's do the superlatives for the NFC North before we jump into the NFC South. We're gonna start with the MVP of the North. You and I are in agreement once again. Justin Jefferson, I think he's the best receiver. I said last year he was the best. I said last year before the season started that he was the best receiver in the NFC. I know a lot of people were kind of arguing for Cooper Cup, which, yeah, of course, the year that he had before was great, but I felt like Justin Jefferson was better, and he kind of proved that last year.
Hmm.
I think you could have him or Jamar Chase for best receiver in the NFL. I think I would lean Jefferson for that, but I think he's going to be the reason why the Vikings are kind of like back in the playoff picture once again. And so, yeah, I got Jefferson, and so do you. Um, and I know you have some other possibilities there too.
Yeah. Well, I said too, that I think that if it isn't him, the way that they're going to be relying on Justin Fields, he's just going to have crazy numbers probably. And then same thing with Goff. But I think overall, Justin Jefferson is going to be the MVP in the North because he's just so good. And it's like he's not slowing down anytime soon.
Right, absolutely. All right, Coach of the Year. Again, we agree that it's going to be Dan Campbell. I mean, to me, again, Dan Campbell's such a good guy. I feel like he deserves to, get the recognition for turning the Lions around. For me, it's not even that Dan Campbell is like going to be the best coach next year. I just don't see a path for the other ones to like have a Coach of the Year type season. Kevin, oh, the Vikings coach. I'm forgetting his last name.
Hmm.
Uh, um, he sort of had the coach of the year season last year with what he did with the Vikings. And then, of course, I don't think Eberflus or Lafleur are going to win enough games to really be able to give them that title. So for me, Dan Campbell's an easy choice.
Yeah, and I think Dan Campbell too. I don't want to sit here and think I'm, too biased on this, but I also know that there is kind of a avid Detroit versus everybody, so I'm keeping that in mind as well. Like if the Lions don't make the playoffs, I don't think they give it to him, and they'll probably give it to someone else. And if you know Chicago doubling their wins probably looks better than the Lions not making the playoffs, so it would either be the two of them. But I'm definitely thinking Dan Campbell.
Right. All right. So we agreed on the rest of these points. So we both have Lions winning the NFC North, the Packers being last in the NFC North. I think those are both kind of self-explanatory. You could say Lions or Vikings. I wouldn't really argue with either pick. I just think the Lions better, and I think the Packers are going to be terrible. I think like as much as I've poo pooed on the Bears parade, I just think the Packers are going to be terrible. Like that, offensively, I just don't know what they're going to do. I like the Bears offense better than I do the Packers at this point. So,
Music to my ears, really. Either way.
and then playoff teams coming out of the North. I see two. I see the Lions getting out there, and the Vikings are going to be able to get in there as well. I don't think it'll be too much of a challenge. Um, to me, I struggle with, and looking at the NFC as a whole, I struggle with seeing two teams come out of the South or two teams come out of the West. So I think you probably get two teams out of the North, one team out of the West and the South, and three out of the East.
Mm-hmm.
And you have two out of the North as well, Vikings and Lions. All right, so moving on. That's one division. We're going to go to the NFC South. Uh, Probably the worst division in football. Everyone thinks it will be the worst division in football, and that I would not argue with at this point. Um, we'll start with the Buccaneers. The Lions at 6-5. Baker Mayfield is currently in a battle with Kyle Trask for the starting quarterback position. Not a sentence you want to hear if you are a Buccaneers fan, but the Buccaneers fans, as much as I do not want this result at all, the Buccaneers fans are kind of like Packers fans, where they're hoping like if this all goes to hell, Caleb Williams, Drake May, they are coming to our rescue. I think that I think that could be the type of season that the Buccaneers have, but the thing they're very similar to the Packers. They can have a terrible season, but a lot of their roster is still there to make them like maybe be a 6-7 win team. Of course, the Buccaneers still have Mike Evans, the defensive player, like Chris Godwin, like that can still be a viable team. Vegas line has them at 6.5. We both have them at the under. Um, I just feel like Baker Mayfield is something to prove, but as a team, I'm not really in love with like Todd Bowles as a coach with Baker, and like it's like this team was built for a Super Bowl, which they got, but I think now it's like falling apart at the seams, and this team is probably going to be in the number one overall pick sweepstakes, or maybe a little bit better than that. But yeah, I got a big under on the Buccaneers.
Yeah, It's Baker's always kind of had something to prove and falls short in doing so. Like he'll have a
Sure.
couple great moments, but it's just not there. And I don't think he is a good leader. Um, and so it's a fall from grace going from Tom Brady to this situation for them. But you said they got the Super Bowl they were aiming for, and now it's just kind of like cruise control. So I think it's going to be a rough go. They're probably going to be the worst in the South, in my opinion. But we'll see. I just don't have high hopes for Baker. It's kind of fallen off. When I kind of put a lot on him to be good at Carolina, and sure, yes, he ruined our hopes by losing to Seattle in that game that we needed them to win. But yeah, I just don't see it happening for him, and it's not going to be an easy season for Tampa at all.
Yeah, I mean Tampa has the misfortune of again you're in a quarterback battle with Baker and Trask, and Tampa has the misfortune of having a first place schedule. So yeah, there you go. It's going to be tough for them. They have a lot of tough opponents: Buffalo, Philadelphia. Um, it's going to be a rough ride for the team. I think I would keep my expectations low. Um, so yeah, 6. Yeah, under 6.5 for me. And you. All right. Moving on to the Carolina Panthers, their line is 7.5. They were 7-10 last year. Obviously, have added lots of stuff on the team. Bryce Young, of course, at quarterback. Got Adam Thielen, got DJ Chark, got some other weapons. Hayden Hurst, Miles Sanders on the offense. Um, they were already solid defensively. Everyone kind of comes back. You're just hoping that one, they get Brian Burns' contract resolved, which he's at least he's playing. He hasn't held out. Everything seems to be positive on that end. And then you're hoping J.C. Horn can stay healthy because you're seeing all these top 10 corners lists, like top 100 players lists. J.C. Horn is a player that has the ability to be on those lists, but hasn't been healthy. And then what everyone's talking about with the Panthers is, outside of Bryce Young, is the coaching staff with Frank Reich, Thomas Browder, OC from the Rams, even from bringing in Jim Caldwell as a assistant. Dom Capers. They're both sides of the ball, offense and defense. Like everyone's raving about the coaching staff. Everyone's raving about Bryce Young, but we both have the Panthers at over 7.5. What do you like about the Panthers, Lexi?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit it on the nail with like naming all the moves they made in this offseason. I really like Bryce Young as a quarterback. I think he's going to do great in the pros. Adding these weapons on offense that they necessarily didn't have before. So it's a lot to get together chemistry wise, but I feel like Bryce Young is mature in that sense, and is being from Alabama, you got to be cool under pressure and things like that. With Nick Saban, so I think it's a perfect situation for him. And like you said, the NFC South isn't going to be too good this year. So it's kind of like the same situation with the Lions. You just got to capitalize on the other teams kind of falling short. And I think that it's set up perfectly for Carolina to win this division.
Yeah, I think it will not be too long. It could be probably like week 3 or 4 where people are like, okay, maybe Bryce Young is the best quarterback in this division. I think right now I'd have to give respect to Derek Carr for that. But even if Bryce Young is like the second best guy, like again in a division like this, that's fine. And again, we've seen like from the first preseason game, excuse me, a lot of the feedback was he looks like a veteran. He's not he doesn't seem rushed. He's cool in the pocket. He's so many things that you wouldn't expect from a rookie quarterback being able to execute. So um, for me, like my only concern, and I think this is the concern of a lot of folks, but my only thing is, all right, if Bryce Young is able to stay healthy and upright and fine and doesn't take too many hits, um, I think that the offense will have a lot to figure out because everyone's new. Um, from coach to quarterback to pieces, whatever. But if they can get that on track, we know the defense is going to do their job. The defense has been solid even the years the Panthers where they were losing games. Defense was always keeping the Panthers in games. And to me, like I don't understand, and this is sort of like different, but I don't understand all the like pessimism about the Panthers because this is a team that went 7-10 last year with a horrible quarterback situation. Matt Rule, was not a great coach. He got fired mid-season. You were working with Steve Wilkes, who was okay, got the team to a few more wins. So, again, this wasn't a team that was like, you normally hear the cliche, they're picking number one for a reason. That wasn't the case with the Panthers. They traded up, So
a good trade too. I think
yeah,
it was worth it for them.
Right. So at 7-10, like I don't see how you don't think that this is a team that can improve on that from a like just general analysis perspective, but from a betting perspective, like 7.5, like this team was worse last year at the most important position and won 7 games, like I'm taking that over all the way. Even if you don't think they're going to be a playoff team, like they can win 8 or 9 games.
Mm-hmm.
That's easy to me. So yeah, I think we agree. It's the probably going to be the over for this team, and there's a lot to be excited about in Carolina. And obviously, I'm a fan. I want to be excited. I want to be able to be like, oh yeah, we got playoff football in Carolina again because it's been a rough few years, and yeah, I'm ready to get the ball rolling, even in the weak division. I don't care. I'm rooting for the best here. Um,
Facts.
yeah. All right, let's talk about the Falcons, who some people are very high on, and I do not understand it at all. Their line is a whopping 8.5. Now, to be fair, they won 7 games last year, so very similar to the Panthers. Had a rough quarterback situation with Marcus Mariota for most of the year, and then you had Desmond Ritter. Desmond Ritter still are there are question marks about him, but again, lines 8.5. You and I agree on the under. Why do you see it that way for the Falcons?
They're just this offense. There's not a lot of like big weapons here. I mean, even in wide receiver, Kyle Pitts was like a little like underwhelming last year too. I do like the addition of Bijan Robinson. I think he's gonna be the entire heart of this offense. Like I really do. And I mean, hopefully he doesn't get too much strain on him because I believe fully that they're fully going to rely on their running game this year. Drake London, at wide receiver, whatever. But besides that, you got a bunch of kind of no name guys that I don't see them being good and getting even kind of close to that 7 win. I see 6. Maybe if they're lucky, I think it's going to be a really rough year for Atlanta, though.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts. I had high hopes for Kyle Pitts. Had him in my fantasy team last year. He let me down.
Same.
Um, I I think that's a lot. That's a lot to do with quarterback play. Like I feel like the quarterback, the scheme, they didn't really. I mean, he was the only guy they were throwing to. I mean, everyone knew the ball was going to him because Calvin Ridley got suspended. They did. Cordell Patterson. They were making him play running back. So yeah, Bijan is going to be great. Um, from experience with Christian McCaffrey, who had a phenomenal rookie year, like the Panthers went 11-5 in his rookie year, but like I can't, looking back on it, I can't say that was like because of Christian McCaffrey. Like he's a running back. Having a great running back is great, important. Like Bijan is going to help them, but if you don't have a reliable quarterback, and we don't know if Desmond Ritter is that guy, like that's not going to move the needle for you. It's going to help a lot, but not move the needle for you. The defense, I think, uh, is better than it has been, but I don't think this is like. I think the Falcons are probably fighting for claim. I think the Falcons are probably still the number 4 in defense in the division. I think the Saints, the Panthers, and Buccaneers all have better defenses than the Falcons. So you're last in the division and defense, probably last in the division in offense. You're fighting for that title with the Buccaneers. To me, uh, I am safely taking the under with the Falcons at 8.5. I think they have to figure out like their permanent answer at quarterback, and
Mm-hmm.
I think this year is a big one for Arthur Smith because I think the jury's still out on him too. So um, yeah, I don't get the people that are high on the Falcons. I don't get it. Um, okay, Saints. Another team that Vegas is high on, that people are high on. 9-5. I mean, excuse me, 9.5 is their line. Their record last year was 9-8. Of course, that was with um, Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill and whoever the hell they were putting out there. Now this year, now this year they've got excuse me, they've got Derek Carr as a starter. Uh, Michael Thomas is back. Chris Olave year 2. They won't have Kamara for a few of the first games of the season, but he will eventually return. I think they have another young running back that they like there. Uh, Defense is still solid. They've got Cam Jordan still. Dennis Allen, of course, has been the coach of that Saints defense for a while now, so he knows how to get the best out of them. Um, I have the under on the 9.5. You and I both, I think, do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll keep it simple with why I think they're going under, and that's because I do not love the combination of Derek Carr at quarterback and Dennis Allen at coach. Like, people who think this team is like an 11 or 12 win team are crazy. Like you cannot. This has been proven time and time again. You're not winning at a high level, even in the regular season, with a below average coach and an average to below average quarterback. I think at this point, Derek Carr is average as a quarterback. Dennis Allen's definitely below average as coach, as a head coach. So to me, I just don't see how like they they are able to win over 9.5 games. And while their talent is good, again, when the coaching quarterback doesn't really match the talent, like it's it's hard. We saw that last year in Denver. Hackett didn't cut it as coach, and Russ didn't play up to Russ's standards. Broncos had a lot of talent, but they didn't win a lot of games. I think the writing's on the wall for the Saints here, unless they, you know, I mean, they're gonna roll into this Allen, but I just don't see it for them. I have to under.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought Derek Carr was better than what the Raiders made him be. And I think for me, the jury's still out on him. I want to see how he does. And you're right, it's a little bit of a shortcoming with who his coach is. I wish he had a better coach because his cycle of coaches, you know, at the Raiders, where I think what, kind of led to maybe some underdevelopment. But I think he's got some fight in him. I can't quite like pinpoint like where it comes from or what, but I don't think he's giving up yet. And I think he's going to fight like hell to prove himself this year. And he's got a couple weapons, like you said, and got some things people he can throw to and to run the ball. I don't know what Alvin Kamara is going to be like in accessibility to this year, but I think even without him, they're in a good position. I stay away from the 9.5 because I think it's going to be 9. It might be 10 if they keep it rolling pretty good, but I don't see anything above that. So I'd stay away from this altogether, but I think they're going to float right at 9 wins this year again. But maybe with a little bit of an improved outlook because they have a new quarterback. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a stay away for me as well. But I would say like you said, like 8 or 9 win team would not like surprise me. I just over 9.5 is crazy to me. Um, all right, so that are all the teams that we're going to talk about. Now to the superlatives for the NFC South. MVP. We had different answers for this. Maybe the only different answers we had on the page, but uh, I couldn't decide. I was between Chris Olave and Brian Burns. We've seen a lot of like the receivers that are touted as like these like great receivers, which Chris Olave obviously was coming out of Ohio State. We always see them sort of like have that second year leap. We saw that with Jefferson and Chase, and a lot of times the year two was like when those receivers that are like tops of the top like usually break out after the rookie year. OBJ, same thing. Um, I think like Olave probably like if he's going to be that guy, I think this could be a year where he breaks out and makes a big difference on the Saints team, and maybe he's the one that's like okay, like they've got the two-headed monster of Olave and Michael Thomas. Like that could be a problem for some teams. So Olave would be my vote, and then I was stuck between him and then Brian Burns. I feel like Brian Burns is. I feel like they're gonna pay him before like the season starts, but you know I think he is in a position to like take that next leap into. He's already been a Pro Bowler. He's already established as a franchise player. I think he probably could take that next step into like superstardom. Like we're talking about him as like one of the best defensive players in the NFL, one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. He's just always I've loved him since since watching him come over from Florida State, and I knew he had some that potential in him. I think Burns could be like the like face of um, the Panthers defensively this year, and be a big factor in them winning games too. So that was my two options: Olave and Burns.
Yeah, those are great options too. I just, I mentioned earlier how Atlanta is going to be focusing their entire offense on Bijan Robinson. And so I think he's going to have just a great rookie year. His team isn't going to do good, but he is, and I think that just when you got to focus like your whole offense around one guy, when those numbers stack up and he can show out. So I got Bijan winning it for the South this year.
NFC South Coach of the Year. We're both in agreement. Frank Reich. Frank Reich, I think, is going to be able to turn this thing around. And it's not just. And I mentioned before, like it's not just Frank Reich. Like that is a really, really good staff. Like the entire staff is really strong. So my answer is probably more like the coaching, the candidate for this coaching staff. But Frank Reich as head coach, I think, could be a great coach of the year candidate for the division. I don't really believe in the other coaches like at all, even as like head coaches. So yeah, Reich is both of our answers. And then of course we agree on the next topic, which is the winner of the NFC South being the Panthers. I think we kind of both talked about why we each like the Panthers. But yeah, I think this is as good as an opportunity as any for the Panthers to break through that glass ceiling and win the division. And it'll be the first time since 15, I think. All right, last place in the NFC South. I have the Falcons because I hate the quarterback situation the most, and the defense is the worst. I think you got Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it just both teams you can really toss up. I think it's going to probably be a game or two difference here, but I just think Tampa Bay plummets and wants that pick for quarterback. So
yeah, I think as crazy as it is, maybe the Falcons, if like Ritter isn't terrible, maybe they're like, all right, we'll give him one more year. But if he's just like horrible, you can definitely see the Falcons and Buccaneers fighting it out for Caleb Williams and Drake May. What I hope is that this is my biggest hope. I hope that Caleb Williams doesn't land in the NFC South, and I hope that Drake May plays in the AFC if he gets drafted. I mean, what am I talking about? He's gonna get, if he gets drafted. If he gets drafted, well, word vomit. I hope whatever team Drake May goes to is in the AFC because I don't want to. I don't want him to be. I don't want to have to like be on a team that I hate in the NFC South, and I don't want him to like be in the NFC like messing up the Panthers' chances to like advance in the playoffs. I want him to be in the AFC. Caleb can be in the NFC. I don't mind hitting on Caleb Williams, but I just don't want him to be in the NFC. I don't want him to be in the NFC South. So keep Drake May and Caleb Williams out of the NFC South, and I'd prefer Drake May to be in the AFC. Those are my personal wishes for this year. Last but not least, how many playoff teams will come out of the NFC South? I think pretty much everyone would probably say just the one because of the quality of the division. There could be a world where things get crazy and maybe the Panthers and the Saints both come out of the South. But if I was like betting on this, I'd stick to one team.
Yeah, I just got Carolina. I think maybe next year for Saints if Carr does well and things are rolling, but yeah, it's just one for me.
I would like the Saints better if they had a different coach. That's really it. Like the Saints are a talented team. If again, Allen was the defensive coordinator, and they had like anybody else, like preferably an offensive head coach, but like anybody better, like I'd be cool with the Saints. But With Dennis Allen, I don't trust him to lead that team to anything like significant. But that's it, guys. That's the NFC North and South preview. The next show will be a East and West preview. That should be a fun one. But 1 week closer to football, one show closer to real games where we get to talk about the biggest games of the weekend. The whole point of our show is talking about the biggest games that happened. So we are eagerly awaiting that. Thank everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
Peace.